everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie, and this channel is chronicling my journey of living my best life with multiple chronic health conditions. Today I will be going over the VQ scan that I had. A VQ scan is a ventilation perfusion scan, which measures the airflow and blood flow through the lungs. I did have the perfusion part of the VQ scan back in 2021, but because of the pandemic, they were not doing the ventilation part. So how this test is done is it uses a radioactive tracer, and the machine takes pictures, and the darker spots are where the tracer is. So if you had a blood clot or areas of the lungs that are not getting good airflow, the test would pick that up. The radioactive tracer is just put into a vein for the perfusion part. For the ventilation part, how my test was done was it was almost like a nebulizer, and they put the radioactive tracer in there and you just breathe it in for 4 or 5 minutes, and then you lay on a table and they take pictures. The machine rotates around you, so you do not have to move for them to get different angles, which is really nice. All I did was lay on the table, and the machine had 2 parts to it that were taking images. So there are 8 total images for both perfusion and ventilation, but the machine would appear to have only been taking 4 images because it had 2 separate parts that were taking images at the same time. So I am laying on the table, and these are the 2 parts that are taking the images. So this would be taking like the top and the bottom, and then it would rotate, taking the sides, would rotate, taking the other sides, and likewise. So really cool that I don't have to move. Each image took about 2 minutes for the machine to take, and you end up with 8 pictures. You get 8 pictures for ventilation, 8 pictures for perfusion. You're in the same, like the images were in the same position, so those images should match. The blood flow and the airflow should be going to the same parts of the lung equally. This is a good test to see if you have blood clots and stuff like that, like I said earlier. I did not think I had a blood clot. When I had this done in 2021, there were no blood clots, and this was after I did have pulmonary embolism, so that part was not surprising. The ventilation images do not look like they match the perfusion images. The annoying part was the whole point of the test was to see if there was a mismatch, because if there's a mismatch, that can explain a lot of my symptoms and why the oxygen helps. I was expecting there to be a VQ ratio. You want that ratio as close to 1 as possible, because that means there's a perfect match between your ventilation and your perfusion. And depending on if the ratio is higher or lower, it says whether you have lower perfusion or ventilation. Unfortunately, I do not have a VQ ratio in my report. My report does say the ventilation images reveal minimal irregular aerosol entry to both lungs. The images is on the screen. The ventilation images are in columns 1 and 3, and the perfusion is in columns 2 and 4. And as you can see, there are definitely parts of the ventilation that are darker than the others, and the whole ventilation is definitely much lighter than the perfusion. So, I don't know. Without a VQ ratio, I don't know what to say. But this may explain why the oxygen helps, because I'm just not getting a lot of good airflow through the lungs in some parts. But yeah, really bummed that I did not get a VQ ratio out of the test, since that was the whole purpose of getting the test done. Also for the test, they do an x-ray, either before or after, it doesn't really matter, and this sort of helps them see if there's like COPD or heart failure issues and everything like that that can explain what's going on in the VQ scan. So I had a chest x-ray in March, and I had one for the VQ scan. The current VQ scan shows it's a lot hazier. It has a lot more like pulmonary vessels, you can see. They're larger and more pronounced. That's normally caused by fluid backup, so fluid overload, heart failure issues, stuff like that. I will be sharing this with my cardiologist. I have an appointment with her coming up in a couple weeks now. I believe it's on the 19th. I will say when I had the x-ray in March, I was probably lighter. I probably weighed about 5 pounds less than I did when I had the x-ray last week. So it kind of makes sense that there's more fluid, but I'm also not what I would consider fluid overloaded right now. This is the weight I'm currently at is the upper range of where I try to keep my weight, whereas in March was sort of the lower range. So I find it interesting that there's such a dramatic difference with that 5 pound increase in weight. But that is the VQ scan, my latest chest x-ray. At work, I am noticing that I am running out of air quicker than I would at a lower weight. So it could be that I'm actually lighter now, but my weight's the same because of fluid. So I am trying to get down to more of a dry weight, if you will, which I consider the weight to be when my autonomic dysfunction is too symptomatic for me to really function at that weight. So we'll see what that weight is. I know what it was, and it may be lower now. So staying at the same upper range of my weight is really too heavy now. But yeah, so low sodium, low carb will be. But yeah, that's what's been going on. I'll eventually have more test results. I don't know why they're not back yet. It's been 2 weeks, but I'm waiting on those. But otherwise, I hope you guys are having a good day whenever it is you are seeing this, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye, guys.